What are the 6 attributes of intentional culture for the Automotive News Best Dealerships to Work For? And for those who have won it, would they do it again? I don't know. Did you like that?
Yeah, I thought you were going to say, stick around to find out.
Oh, I was! Dang it. Okay, hold on. Redo.
Welcome to It Doesn't Take a Genius.
Stick around to the end to find out. Yes or no.
Ramsey!
Hey, Marshall. Are we having a fun time?
We are. Yeah. We're so bad at like the professional part of podcasting. like I think we're good at the middle. Yeah, here's some really good stuff. We need a producer. We need help. If you want to be a producer out there and you work for zero money,
yeah,
just for the experience and resume building, we're hiring.
Well, I've watched enough, YouTube videos of Dude Perfect, who we've done an episode on before, to know that most of the winning of the battle is having videographers and, more importantly, editors. If we had an editor, I think that would be amazing. But no, we're winging it here, trying to get some good stuff out there.
Yeah, we're one step below Wayne's World at this point.
That would be accurate.
Yeah, insert obscure reference from the early '90s.
As a child, I drove around not in an AMC Gremlin, but in an AMC Hornet. So that's my Wayne's World connection. Plus, it was my coming of age movie as a teenager.
Oh yeah. I remember when my daughter came up to me and said, "Are you familiar with this new group, Queen?"
Queen.
It's like, I hate to break it to you, but Fred's dead. Yeah, and they are amazing.
That's very true on both points. Well, anyway, so we, you and I are on Automotive News's mailing list, and we had an email come through recently. They're recruiting for their applications for their Best Dealerships to Work For competition. I have had a client win said competition. Stay tuned to hear more about that towards the end. But in the body of the email, they've sort of reworked their categories a little bit, and they put these 6 questions and said, if you answer positively to these 6 questions, then you're a good candidate for Best Dealership to Work For. So we want to share those with our listening audience, and maybe we might have one of the winners in our listening audience. Maybe it's all of our listeners. Both of them.
Yes.
Sorry,
I don't think either one are in the car business. Yeah, but they listen anyway, and I kind of admire their courage, stick to it. Their persistence.
There was a young stand-up comic on an episode of The Nanny, and by the end of the episode, it's the nanny has been trying to talk him up so that he'll ask out the boss's daughter. And he finally, at the end, does do it. He finally works up the nerve and asks her out, and she says yes. And he says, suddenly I lost all respect for you.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite lines.
Yeah. W.C. Fields, I would never be a member of a club that would have me as a member.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
All right.
Anyway, but this is good for anybody, just for the record. This is not just for dealerships. This is for anybody.
Yeah, if you want to analyze your organization, here's a group that's put together 6 different attributes that they're looking for to determine, right, is this one of the best in America? And I have to say, when you go through the list, it would be a nice self-assessment for any department, any organization, if you modified these questions slightly and ask them of yourself and of your team.
I think that is very well said, and so let's roll right into it, because this will be good for anybody. First question, are we improving year over year in employee satisfaction and performance? So just to repeat that, year over year improvement in employee satisfaction and in employee performance, both of those things going up.
Okay, so and maybe these aren't in order of priority.
No.
But it certainly seems like they're starting with, are you getting good results? Like, is it working? like you can have the greatest place to work in America, and if you're going bankrupt and nobody's growing or getting better, it doesn't seem sustainable.
It does seem fair to ask the question, are you making money?
Yeah. Is it working? Are you growing in employee satisfaction and performance?
Yep.
And think about that for a second. They also emphasize, right, notice what's absent from that. Nowhere does it mention the customer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's are you taking care of your people, and are you growing? And do you have measurable metrics to demonstrate both things? So are you getting results?
And that's I think you just said a big part of this is, of course you can look at the the income statement, and you can look at all the scoreboards you have for are we selling, are we servicing, are we doing the things we want to take care of our people, but what about employee satisfaction? Are you measuring that? Right? Is there some some quick employee survey? Is there some sort of follow-up tool for seeing how that is changing over time? Is there any accountability with senior management on how that's going? So part of this is just you're going to have to actually measure it if you want to find out if you're any good at it.
Oh yeah. I had a store, and they were a 3-time Automotive News Best Dealership in America to work for. And I showed up with the factory employee survey, and they were like, "No, we can't do it. We already survey our employees on a regular basis, and we've done the Automotive News Best Dealership in America to work for survey. 3 surveys, too much." And I was so excited because they were consistently
awesome.
surveying and asking their people how they doing and how it could be better. And so I'm like, we're good. You guys are doing great.
Yeah, totally. And so you're going to have some method of measuring that. Should we move on to the second?
Oh yeah. What else are they looking for?
So a next question: are our technicians supported with the training, tools, and facilities they need to succeed? Now, again, I'll repeat that. Let me suggest that technician means something very specifically in the automotive world, and it's something we're all desperately looking for, are good technicians. But technicians is also a generic term. It's a term for anybody out there who is doing something that requires some expertise. That again, you can do it or not. You're either good at it or you're not good at it. It's something that will bring a lot of strength to an organization if you have a deep bed of good ones. But here the question is saying, are our technicians supported with the training, the tools, the facilities they need to succeed?
Well, and when you think about that, right, what they're asking is, are you investing in your people?
That's right.
Right? Are you investing in your people so that you can have improved performance and employee satisfaction? So that question feeds the one above it. And being specific, right? They outline training, right? Are you keeping them up to speed with the latest tools and techniques, right? Tools, and then the facility itself. What is the environment that you're putting these people into, and is it top notch? Is it serving the people who have to be in it every single day? That's
right. And think how broad tools could be here, right? Because in some cases we've gone into organizations where the tool that we use to help the back end of a dealership was we had the managers of the back end take some DISC assessments. And figure out like, oh, I see how I'm wired and how my communication style is different from, my 3 foremen. And I've got to adjust how I communicate with them to give them the best support so that they can actually hear clearly from me, what's needed and what's going on in the store. So, it could be something like that. It could be something such as one of the other things that we do a lot is putting together cross-departmental teams. Who work on an issue that is causing a lot of headaches for people in one department or another, And, it could be, sometimes that group does identify facility changes that need to be made. Like if we will just move this lane over to this side and get them out of the way so that we can concentrate on the customers coming through on the front end. I won't go into a big explanation, but just, those cross-departmental teams, first off, it's nice for the technicians to know they're heard and that other people understand what they're doing and have some empathy for that. But they also come up with some really cool solutions that probably the leadership team isn't necessarily going to come up with because they're just not in the trenches the way the techs are. So giving them a chance to be heard is another tool that you could use to support them.
Oh, yeah. Well, and it dovetails nicely into the next item, which is all about innovation. So in your example, right, we're looking to the employees for ideas to innovate. And then your next question, what's it say?
Are we using technology to help our teams work smarter and more efficiently?
Right. So the idea of innovation, right. There's all these tools, you have to go to any trade show or conference in your industry and just see the sea of vendor booths of software and tools that may or may not help you to improve employee satisfaction and performance.
I had a dealer come back from NADA and he said, man, you just walk that vendor hall, $2,000 a month. Says whatever software tool you could possibly imagine, it's offered $2,000 a month. All will be $2,000 a month. Just sell one more car. You got it. $2,000 a month. But here it's a little more specific, like what would help, right? Like what, certainly in our day and age, AI tools, we could be talking about here. We could be talking about things that fit with your CRM, things that are a part of the enterprise software, the DMS that you happen to run, and that could be what we're saying here. But I think it's a little broader than that, don't you?
Oh yeah. Well, in the automotive industry, I think the question is there because it's only been in the last few years that we've had software that helped department teams work more effectively together.
Yeah.
Previously, every department had its own siloed software that didn't talk to any of the other software.
Right.
And now you see a program like there's a program out there called Rapid Recon.
Rapid Recon.
Sponsorship will be accepted anytime. Please step up, Rapid Recon. But Rapid Recon is one of those new programs that the sales leadership, the service department, the parts department, the cleanup department, the photo department.
Yep.
They're all using the same software. We're bringing the whole team together in one platform.
Yep.
I know for people in other industries, you're going, yeah, duh. But in the car business, revolutionary, groundbreaking software. So that question, a little bit more specific. I think it works for everybody. But I do believe that in the automotive industry, we've been so far behind that technology-wise, that these types of tools, from an innovation standpoint, they're looking for those. That tells me a little bit about your store, your dealership, if you're actively looking to incorporate those tools into your shop.
So an example of that for the non-automotive folks who are listening, both of them, it's probably fair to point out to you that a technician might be under a car or using an impact wrench, and he's not looking at the little chat box that came up in his enterprise software window, his CDK window, that says, you have a new message from the advisor. And he's also not able to hear the phone or the public address system paging him for this, customer issue. So how do you get a hold of him, right? And another tool that's been used here lately in the car business is, chatting services like Slack, where it comes to your phone, and it's separate from the DMS, it's separate from the enterprise software, and gives you a chance to, you can send out a message to anybody who's on the channel for the express team, or parts people are on this particular channel. So it gave them a way to talk and have it on their hip so that they could quickly look at it. Again, I know that seems like something that you've been using since you had AOL Instant Messenger in the late 90s, but in the car business, it's a fairly new thing.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, it's big stuff.
All right.
The-
So,
What else we got?
do we promote from within and create clear paths for career growth? And this ought to have a big fat gold star next to it.
Oh
This
yeah.
is huge.
Well, a couple of things here. One is it's future focused.
Mm-hmm.
So do you plan to grow your future leadership,
Yep.
and do we have a path for developing that leadership? And we are very fortunate that we work with auto groups and dealerships that are very forward focused, leadership
Yep.
development focused, and want to promote from within.
Yeah.
And so the other piece of this is these young Gen Z employees expect you to just have this.
Yep.
Right? The misnomer is that they all want to start at the top. It's not true, right?
Right.
2 weeks they want to be CEO, but
Yep.
but in those 2 weeks, right? They don't want to all start at the top, but they do want to work for a place that has a path that shows them how they progress through the organization. And if your organization doesn't seem to have thought that through to the point you can put it in writing, they keep their options open about where they do want to work.
You nailed it, and it's that idea of I can see the path, I can see a light at the end of the tunnel. I'm not going to be if my goal is to not turn wrenches the rest of my life, or I don't want to be an oil monkey the rest of my life, or all the other things that you'll hear them say. It's not that I don't think I have to pay my dues. It's that I need to know that I'm going to be progressing somewhere in this organization, and I need to know what the things are I need to do to get there, because I'll do them. They'll work really, really hard at that.
Yeah.
Let me give another example, though, of where that shows up is the capstone projects that you have cleverly introduced into some of our workshop series. So the young, hungry folks who are looking to advance, we bring them into this course, and they take the course with us throughout the year, series of workshops. And you ask them in the first workshop, I want you to think about something, a capstone project you'll be working on the whole time we're doing this class, where you're back at your store working on something real. And it's got to be something big enough that it would make a difference. It's got to be cross-departmental. You give them a number of, qualifiers for it. But I think both of us were shocked at how often not only did they do that, but like they kept doing that and kept putting up wins on the board, like big changes for their particular dealerships. But again, you have to put that in their lap and say, hey, we want you to go work on some stuff, and by the way, this is the kind of thing that gets you promoted around here. So I think it was a big win that you injected that into our little work that we do.
Oh yeah, the idea that give people a chance to prove their capabilities at leading a project and organizing and planning and executing and motivating. Right, give me a little test bed to do that while making what we've seen is a very meaningful difference in various aspects of the dealership's performance. It's like
100%.
Holy cow, that made us a whole lot of money, or saved us a whole lot of money.
Yep.
In addition to all the growth benefits for the person doing it. I think that's pretty amazing. We see in many of our dealerships now, you hire a brand new lube tech, and they're presented with the bronze, silver, and gold levels pathway. All right, here's the things that you need to prove and demonstrate. That makes you bronze. This makes you silver. This makes you gold. After achieving gold, you go into our apprentice tech program where you're bronze, silver, and gold, on your way to being a full main shop tech. Totally. And so mapping out these pathways, showing people how they can grow in their career. I haven't seen this list from 10 years ago, but I bet that wasn't on there because it wasn't as big a priority to the people coming into the workplace. So no matter what industry you're in, this is a priority for the young people who you're looking to attract.
So I know a young Chick-fil-A employee, and he was getting a celebratory iced coffee. I said, "What are you celebrating?" And he said he had just finished his final evaluation. I was like, what do you mean final evaluation? He said, well, I've now trained and tested on every single front of house job. And by the way, I got a little per hour bump with each one. I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. And then he said, and now I can train on back of house. I'm not allowed to until I finish front of house. Ooh, so he's actually excited to get into the kitchen. I bet you there are some fast food places where it's kind of the opposite, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know, and he's excited about it. So I think this is not just an automotive thing, for sure.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, definitely. I think, yeah, this is the future for all businesses.
You know, I should also say this. This just occurred to me. Not only is it a big deal in terms of, ooh, I'm advancing, these people are excited to see other people who are in the thick of it with them. We had that alumni gathering for people who had graduated the course at one of our auto groups that we work with. Mm-hmm. And it was very last minute. It was sort of like a late idea, like, let's just see what happens. And I mean, most people couldn't come because of, scheduling conflicts, but I mean, like, more than half came. It was a big room full of people, and they were excited to share ideas about what had happened since graduation. So they were continuing to work on advancement. I think it's huge. So, okay, anyway.
No, that was great. Speaking of top performers.
Yes. Are we retaining them? And that's the question. Are we retaining top performers long term?
All right, so we want to keep top performers for a long time. And apparently Automotive News believes this is some indicator of your organization's, success. Seems pretty obvious. Well, and when you look at that one, I like the way it's worded because many times, people look at overall turnover.
Yeah.
And you say, okay, what's your turnover rate?
Yeah.
And, there are times when your turnover rate may be higher, but the only thing worse than low turnover is no turnover when turnover's needed.
Right.
So sometimes, people aren't a good fit. Maybe we've changed in such a way that people who were a good fit are no longer a good fit. And for them to stay would actually hold the organization back. And our top performers, are they sticking around? And another thing that we've figured out over the years is the people who self-select out are often the top performers if it's not a great organization.
Yeah.
Because top performers have options.
That's so very true.
The bottom of the barrel people, there's not a lot of places they can go. Right? But your top performers, even if they're not looking, somebody's calling them.
Yeah.
Hey, here you're killing it over there. How are they treating you?
That's 100% correct, and have the confidence to step out, whereas some folks don't.
Oh yeah.
And notice if you have worked on some of the previous questions, you're answering this question too, right? If you're the kind of person who's been surveying employees, you've probably got a little bit of a pulse, a little finger on the pulse of how your top performers are feeling, and can adjust accordingly. And if you have been doing things to promote from within and create clear paths for growth, you're probably keeping top performers interested in climbing the ranks, or at least performing and knowing that they've got a system out there that appreciates and wants to grow them. So this is all tied together. I would add coaching is a big deal here. You're fond of pointing out. I've never heard a single Kentuckian say it, but you said that a lot of your Kentucky stores have an expression on their top performers.
Oh yeah. When you ask them how your top people are, they said we don't bother them. We let our thoroughbreds run.
I refuse to believe that was ever said in Kentucky, but
Go ahead. I swear. I've heard it in 2 different places. All right. Yeah, the idea that we let our thoroughbreds run, right? Our top people, they don't need coaching. They don't need attention. They don't need anything from me. Right. I just get out of their way. And lo and behold, everything seems fine up until the point they put in their 2-week notice. And then the manager's response is always the same. Dude, I had no idea anything was wrong.
Yep.
That's the whole point. You never touched base with me. And yeah, my numbers were good, but I was having some frustration, struggles, whatever it might
Yeah.
be. And you never talked to me to uncover those and help me deal with them. So I'm going to go find a place that will, listen, and I feel valued and heard.
Yeah, that's so true. And this is the kind of thing that you're going to have to figure out how to make this a conversation that you have on a regular basis. And by the way, A players like to work with A players. So holding your whole team to accountability is something that they're going to appreciate long term. And sometimes those top performers are leaving because you're not getting rid of the cancer on the floor or what have you. So, all right, we've got one more here.
All right.
This is
And
this is kind of a big deal.
This one's out of left field.
It's left field. I kind of hate that it's here, but I know it's true. Are we making a meaningful impact in our community? Are we making a meaningful impact in our community? Is this hippie crap, Mike?
Well, let's all bring it in for a group hug. Just bring it in. Yeah. Well, I think two things here. One is great organizations often have a purpose motive.
Yeah.
The idea that what are we working on that's bigger than ourselves? Yeah. The first question asks us, right, are we profitable? Are we performing? Are we growing in results? And then the last question says, what are you doing with the fruits of your labor? Right? Are you using any of it to give back to the community that obviously is helping you to be successful?
Yeah.
And the other part of this, when I look at this question, I go, okay, it's really asking also the opposite thing is, are you a selfish organization?
Mm-hmm.
Is it all about me and not, the heck with everybody around me, who none of this would be possible without the community?
Yeah. I just finished with the homeschool group that I help out with. I'm tutoring a class of high school sophomores, and we are wrapping up a book. It's a famous book on Christian thought and Western civilization and culture called How Then Shall We Live? And it's by Francis Schaeffer, famous professor, apologetics guy, theologian. And I say all that because he talks a lot about hippies. And he was older than the hippies, and he says they were right. Their assessment was correct, that our society was devolving into only two values really mattered. Personal peace, I'm in my bubble, and whatever happens outside my bubble, I want my bubble to be comfortable, and anything that happens outside of it, I don't give a rip. I don't care about starving children in Africa. And then the other one was affluence, acquire things. And you think that that's almost a joke, but remember the movie Wall Street and the Gordon Gekko character, and he says something about greed is good, and it's a satire. And so many business people took it as like a religion, like, yeah, greed is good, guys, let's do it. And we still have that in the workforce today. My wife was just watching a documentary about some scam artist that they finally caught, and he said that Gordon Gekko line all the time. So to say, I'm not a hippie, I don't want to be a hippie. The hippies turn to some weird places for their answers, mainly like transcendental, drug use and extreme left-wing politics. But I want to appreciate the fact that if all you are this soulless corporation that doesn't care about anything outside of your four walls, and you're just acquiring, and especially if you're treating people like cogs in a machine, you better figure out some sort of meaningful impact in your community, so that there's something larger than just your business, because your business ain't that important. I think that's a lot of what this boils down to.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I'm glad to see the question there, because so many of the dealerships and auto groups we work with give tremendous amounts of support and money to their communities. I mean, it is It is amazing numbers with with 2, 3 commas in them.
Yep.
To these sometimes small communities, and so it's neat that there's and most of them do it quietly without any fanfare or big photo ops or things like that.
Right.
And so it's neat that the when you're determining the best dealership in America, are we looking for that? And they are. And so many of the stores do this and do it to an extent that nobody in the community, individually, they may know, okay, they supported my group, but they have no idea they also supported 8 or 9 other groups that you're not affiliated with, that you won't know that they contributed to as well.
Yeah, you absolutely nailed that. I appreciate the quiet humility of a lot of these groups. And the other thing is your industry and your business has some particular resources and talents that they can bring to bear, that I can go donate myself at a charity, donate time, donate money, but your organization has some expertise, and maybe it's technicians helping folks who are down on their luck with oil changes. Maybe it's a mentoring program where you bring youngsters in who would appreciate the fact that they could have a career in sales. Maybe, I don't know what it is, but there's some things that your business brings to the table. I would argue God put your business in the community for a reason, and it's probably not just for everybody there to put food on the table. You are part of a community. And so I'm glad it's on the list, even though the part of me that goes, sounds hippie, is still there. I do think it's a really big deal that we have a purpose. Turns out purposes are really motivating, and that's part of what this is.
Oh, so, yeah. I want to work for a place that cares.
That's right.
Yep,
that's exactly
simple as that. Right. And that care extends beyond the walls of the place.
That's right.
Pretty cool. All right. So if this sounds like your dealership, the applications are due April 17th.
It's right? Coming up fast.
And if you're not in the car business, this is still a great list of things.
Yeah.
And we'll put the list in the comments below. But yeah, it's still a good list of things to work through when you think about, all right, what have I built here and what's left to be done?
So I promised that I would share this, but my dealership that applied and won said they'll never do it again because it was so much paperwork. So, for what it's worth, that is an issue here. But man, the questions are strong, and it's worth going through the application process to sort of figure out your strengths and weaknesses as an organization and become a best place to work for.
Oh, yeah. And for some dealerships that I've worked with, they said just going through the survey process where all their team members were surveyed and getting that feedback, winning would have been the cherry on top. But going back to the very first thing, figuring out where their employee satisfaction was and how it could be better, that was worth the price of admission.
Totally buy that. It's a beautiful thing.
It is nice.
All right. Well, with that being said, time to turn it over to our announcer, who frankly is in and of himself a best place to work for.
Oh, for sure, in America.
So go ahead and tweet that, or share it any other way you want. As always, there are no rights reserved, no trademarks, no copyrights. Share it if you want to. And join us next time on It Doesn't Take a Genius.
That's good enough.